How's it going everyone, Jimmy here, and today I want to show you guys the matchup chart for Ryu that I made in order for you guys to get a better understanding of how I currently feel about all of the different matchups in Season 2 for Ryu. Now, before we get started, I really want to mention matchups change all the time and they're always dependent on personal experiences and a lot of other stuff. There are certain matchups, for example, that you rarely play, so you really don't have a good understanding of whether it's good or bad to begin with. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Things are always changing, so this is just how I currently feel. So yeah, let's get right into this. This is basically the matchup chart that I came up with. In case you want to get a bigger picture of the chart itself, there's a download link in the description below. So in order for you guys to understand the chart, you really only have to understand the closer a character is to the bottom of the chart, the worse the matchup is for Ryu. That's all you have to understand. So yeah, let's start with the good matchups for Ryu. By the way, I really don't want to discuss every character on this chart in detail because the video would just take way too long if I actually did that. Instead, I'm gonna pick a few ones that I think are important to discuss and we'll talk a little bit about those. So let's start with Vega. The matchup against Vega is very interesting for several reasons. First of all, I have a lot of experience in the matchup, so I'm fairly confident to say this is a good matchup for Ryu. The reason why it's really good is because you can actually zone with Ryu in this matchup, and it does work against him because all of his options around the fireball are consistently punishable. So if I bait out a jump in from Vega, then I can consistently punish it with Ryu because Vega doesn't have any way to alter his jump arc. That makes it very easy to deal with, and this is basically one of the main differences why controlling space versus Vega is so easy when you compare it to a lot of other characters. And I think this is how Capcom intended for Ryu to be played in Season 2. They didn't want Ryu to be the character that gets a random crush counter from mid-screen into a knockdown situation into high damage potential afterwards. They really wanted him to zone more, and yeah, doesn't work against a lot of characters, but against Vega, it certainly does, so I'm happy about that. I want to briefly mention Armika and Alex on this list because they're the only two characters that I'm list as good matchups for Ryu, and this is basically really only because of the information that I have about the changes and yeah, how I imagine the matchups are in Season 2. The thing is, I really lack experience. I don't ever play against Alex or Armika. I think it's especially Armika, you almost never see Armika nowadays, so it's kinda difficult to get a good understanding of the matchup. So moving on to even matchups, let's start off with Akuma. I think Akuma is interesting because he has super high damage potential, and when he's when he does get his damage going against you, it feels super unfair. It feels like this is a super broken character. But if you think about it, a lot of the approaches that Akuma has are definitely risky, and Akuma does not have a lot of health to take. I also played a little bit of Akuma myself, and I realized that you really can't afford to make mistakes with this character, and especially against Ryu. Ryu can deal a ton of damage if Akuma players mess up, so yeah, I think this is pretty even. Next up, Zangief. Now Zangief is an interesting character in Season 2. The Japanese players currently think he's top tier, and yeah, if you think about the matchup from Season 1, I thought Ryu-Zangief was a 5-5 matchup back then as well, so now that Zangief has better tools and better opportunities to get damage, this should be in Zangief's favor, but the experience that I have from playing online is kind of similar, and that's why I didn't feel like putting him below even. I really think Ryu can make this work. Ryu is the one controlling everything, and Zangief's the one that has to make some reads. And if you're really good at baiting out your opponent and mixing up your patterns for everything, then Zangief is still gonna have a really hard time getting in. And yeah, that's why I feel this is even, but it also has a lot of potential to change in the future. Maybe I just have not played against the right Zangief player that can show me how dominant Zangief can be in the matchup now. Who knows? Next up, let's talk about Ken. Now, a lot of people actually feel that Ryu beats Ken in Season 2. till this day, I'm not really sure about how it actually is. The thing is, I feel Ryu wins the neutral game over Ken, like just barely, but the problem is Ken is gonna land those standing hard kick crush counters every once in a while, and because of the standing light kick nerf from Ryu, even if you block a standing hard kick, you will almost never get the punish. So I feel Ken is really encouraged in the matchup to use some moves that have high damage potential and high like potential for corner carry into mix-ups there. So I just because of that, I feel Ryu is at a disadvantage overall, slightly. This is really not a super bad matchup whatsoever. It's a lot better actually than it used to be in Season 1. It's a lot more predictable, but it also feels bad. Every single time I get hit by a standing hard kick as a crush counter, I really have to take a breather because I know exactly this is not a good spot to be in against Ken. The first character that I want to mention when it comes to pretty bad matchups is Ibuki. She's one of the characters that I didn't really know where to put on the tier list because she's so unpredictable. I felt she's closer to where Balrog, Guile, and Eurion are when it comes to how bad the matchup is against Ryu, but then again, she kind of has to take risks, and if they don't pay off, she just loses. But yeah, it's one of the matchups you really don't want to play against Ibuki at a tournament, and the reason why you don't want to play against Ibuki is because you just don't know what's going to happen. It's unpredictable. Her tools, she has so many tools to work with that everything she does is scary. When she jumps in at you, you don't really know whether you want to anti-air or not because an EX kunai might be coming, and that is certainly going to screw up your anti-air. Her V-trigger mix-ups are insane, and they're not quite as broken as Eurion's V-trigger mix-ups, but they're quite similar, especially when it comes to the damage output and just the potential that she can, the potential of damage that she can do. And yeah, very scary character that Ryu is really not that good at dealing with. So let's talk about the really bad matchups in Season 2 for Ryu, starting off with Balrog. Balrog is the type of character that you deal okay with in the neutral game. Some really bad things happen for Ryu there, the standing light kick nerf makes it so that dash straight is mostly safe nowadays, which is pretty bad, but it's also it also makes the dash straight more predictable. So if you get a neutral jump punish for a dash straight, then you're gonna be automatically in a really good spot. What makes the matchup pretty screwed up though is the V-trigger. Balrog's V-trigger has so much potential, and there is really not a super good way to deal with it that by itself it's gonna make Balrog kind of win the matchup by default, and it's kind of bad. So yeah, Ryu does fine against Balrog until he has V-trigger, and when that happens, if you get caught off guard, you basically have to deal with the V-trigger activation is going to lead into big damage output, it's going to lead into a corner carry, and it's going to lead to potential more damage from the knockdown situation. That's something that Ryu really can't deal with, and this is what happens mostly against him. You're doing fine, and then V-trigger happens, and then you're dead. That's pretty much what happens. Next up, let's talk about Guile. Really don't have a lot to say about this because it's very simple basically what happens. You're just chasing around Guile the whole match. And you're gonna take a lot of damage through Sonic Boom and back fists until you have Guile in the corner, and then you realize you don't have enough damage to kill him. And there is really no big potential for Ryu to do that damage. Guile players are just gonna take the throw, go back to neutral, and start winning again. That's pretty much what's gonna happen, and this is the main reason why you're just almost never gonna win. You just don't do the damage, and you're just chasing Guile around, and while you do that, you're dying. So that's pretty much it. Okay, and finally, let's talk about Eurion. I really need some time to even speak about this character because it's really difficult for me. It's really truly difficult. This character makes me really sad, and the reason why the matchup is so bad, or it's actually, I don't think it's the matchup. I think Eurion by itself is just so broken, unbelievably broken. by design, and it's kind of crazy. Like, what happens is you're losing the neutral game right away. Okay, this is what happens. A lot of Eurion players say like Eurion's tools are not that great in neutral, which is true. Like his buttons aren't that good, but they're good enough to deal with Ryu, and because of the insane walk speed as well, it's like you get hit all the time against Eurion. When you try to zone him, it's so easy for Eurion to close the gap that like you realize midway through, okay, zoning is not an option. If you try to zone, you're just gonna become too predictable, and Eurion is just gonna win the neutral game because of that. It's so hard to deal with Eurion's bullshit all the time. There's so much stuff to take, to consider, that it's really insane. I have such a hard time against this character, and what makes it even worse is, even if you do somehow manage to win the neutral game against him, where like that's supposed to be his weakness. His neutral game is supposed to be his weakness, which is ridiculous because his neutral game is absolutely fine. It's really good. Yeah, let's say you deal the damage and then V-trigger happens, okay? Like, remember what I said about Balrog, right? You do fine in neutral against Balrog until he has V-trigger and then you die. With Eurion, you die when you play the neutral game, and if you somehow don't die playing the neutral game, you die, you certainly will die once he has V-trigger. There's no way around it. Like, the thing is, you have to put Eurion in a bad state and then keep him in that bad state forever, okay? And Ryu can't do that. He just cannot do that. Ryu has a throw, and after you throw him, Eurion starts winning again. And I wanna like highlight how bad this property actually is, like how hard you can outplay Eurion and still lose a round against him because of his bullshit V-trigger. And yeah, I have a highlight coming up for you guys just to highlight that particular aspect about Eurion. Once again, keep in mind, it's difficult to get Eurion, like to just put him in a bad spot in neutral. Like anyways, like it's that's so difficult to do, and even when you manage to do it, like when you manage to outplay Eurion like that, he still wins. So I really hope you guys are gonna enjoy that highlight. It's so frustrating, and you can see it probably in my gameplay to come as well, how frustrated I actually am just because of this super bullshitty character. Yeah, hope you're really gonna enjoy that highlight, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. This is fair, right? This is fair, right? This is a super good example of why Eurion is complete garbage. Like, I was in control the whole match, okay? He gets one free V-trigger activation. I'm being put in a situation where I have to guess. Like, I can't avoid that. I have to deal with that shit. And if I lose the guess, then I die. No matter how much life lead I have, I will just die. These kind of reads, like the game, the neutral, like the way I'm outplaying him at the moment doesn't matter if he gets to activate V-trigger.